The Ultimatum. The skies over every major city darkened simultaneously at 14:32 Greenwich Mean Time on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday in June. Massive vessels, resembling obsidian shards against blue skies, positioned themselves in perfect formation above Earth's atmosphere. They appeared without warning, without detection from even the most advanced tracking systems humanity possessed. One moment empty space, the next, visitors. Global communications faltered for precisely 9 minutes before returning with a singular message broadcast in every language, on every device capable of receiving a signal. The Archon Collective acknowledges your civilization. Prepare for evaluation. At the United Earth Defense Headquarters beneath Geneva, Ambassador Vela Reyes was hurriedly escorted through reinforced corridors. Military personnel moved with practiced precision, but their eyes betrayed the panic that procedure couldn't mask. Screens lining the hallways displayed the identical ships hovering above New York, Beijing, Cairo, Sydney, 27 cities in total. What do we know? Vela asked General Hashimoto as they descended in a high-security elevator. Nothing useful, he replied, his normally stoic demeanor fractured by concern. Our weapons systems can't even get a proper reading on their composition. It's as if the vessels absorbed scanning technology. The war room was already filled with heads of state connected via secure hologram, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of emergency lighting. President Zhao of the United Earth Government stood at the center, her expression grave. Ambassador Reyes. Zhao nodded. You're our first contact specialist. What are we dealing with? Before Vela could formulate a response, the screens surrounding them flickered. A figure materialized in every display, humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, eyes entirely black, except for pinpoints of white light at their centers. When it spoke, its voice resonated not from the speakers but seemingly from within each person's mind. I am Overlord Xiros of the Archon Collective. Your species has been monitored since you first harnessed nuclear energy. You have now reached a developmental threshold requiring our intervention. The room fell silent, the collected leaders of humanity rendered momentarily speechless. Vela stepped forward. On behalf of Earth, I welcome dialogue with the Archon Collective. I am Ambassador Reyes. We recognize your designated communicator status. Xiros interrupted. However, this is not a dialogue. This is notification. The alien's face remained impassive as it continued. Earth occupies strategic position and contains resources vital to collective expansion. You will surrender planetary governance and resource allocation to Archon direction. Compliance period. 7 Earth rotations. President Zhou joined Vela. And if we require more time to consider your proposal. The alien's expression shifted subtly, something almost like amusement. This is not a proposal. Non-compliance will result in planetary cleansing to preserve resources. Previous civilizations have mistaken our efficiency for cruelty. This would be inaccurate. Screens throughout the facility displayed images of worlds reduced to barren landscapes, atmospheres stripped away, oceans vaporized. 7 rotations. Prepare your acceptance protocols. The transmission ended. Chaos erupted in the war room, voices overlapping as global leaders demanded immediate military response, surrender negotiations, or desperate technological solutions. President Zhao raised her hand, commanding silence with the gesture. Ambassador Reyes, your assessment. Vela considered carefully before responding. They're not lying about their capabilities. The technology gap is significant, but there's something else. They mentioned strategic position, not just resources. We're valuable for what we are, not just what we have. Meaning? General Hashimoto pressed. Meaning total destruction isn't their preferred outcome. That gives us leverage, however slight. For 48 hours, Earth presented a face of terrified compliance. Public announcements advised calm cooperation while behind secured doors. Humanity planned its resistance. Vela led diplomatic communications with the Archon representatives, carefully extracting information while appearing submissive. In a research facility beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Naomi Chen worked without sleep, analyzing the limited data they'd gathered from the alien vessels. Her team had detected an unusual radiation signature emanating from the ships, something that interacted strangely with Earth's magnetic field. "It's not just a byproduct of their technology," Naomi explained during an encrypted briefing. "It's integral to it. The radiation signature suggests their systems are calibrated to specific harmonic frequencies. If we could disrupt those harmonics..." General Hashimoto frowned. "You're suggesting we could disable their ships?" "Not disable," Naomi corrected, "but possibly interfere with their communications and sensory systems. Create blind spots." President Zhao authorized immediate development of Naomi's theoretical weapon. Meanwhile, Vela continued negotiations, requesting clarification on transition protocols, deliberately prolonging discussions while Earth's scientists worked feverishly. On the sixth day, as dignitaries prepared for the formal surrender ceremony, Vela made a discovery during her latest meeting with the Archon delegates. Their representative, a lower-ranking officer named Crixus, revealed an unexpected detail. "The collective has processed 16 civilizations in this sector," Crixus stated, displaying holograms of conquered worlds. "Most adapt efficiently to collective direction. And those that don't adapt?" Vela asked carefully. "Are processed for resource extraction only." Crixus paused, its luminescent skin pulsing slightly, what Vela had begun to recognize as their equivalent of emotional response. "Though some integration complications have occurred with the most recent acquisition." Complications. The Solari possessed unexpected resistance mechanisms. Their biological systems proved problematic to process. For the first time, Vela detected something resembling concern in the alien's demeanor. Later that night, in the secure bunker where Earth's remaining free leadership had gathered, Vela presented her findings. The Archons aren't invincible. The Solari, whoever they were, found some way to resist, at least partially. And there's something else. She displayed readings from her covered scanning device. During discussions of the Solari, the Archon representative showed physiological stress patterns. "They're afraid of something." Dr. Chen looked up from her data tablet. "That matches what we found. Their technology is advanced, but it's also surprisingly dependent on specific operational parameters. If these readings are correct, their entire system architecture is vulnerable to harmonic disruption." President Zhao studied the tactical displays showing the Archon vessels positioned around the planet. "We have less than 24 hours before they expect our formal surrender. What can we do with that time?" General Hashimoto stepped forward, displaying a global map with glowing points representing military installations. "We've covertly distributed Dr. Chen's prototype disruptors to key facilities worldwide. They're not weapons in the traditional sense, more like signal jammers tuned to the specific frequency their systems operate on." "Will it be enough?" Zhao asked. No one answered immediately. Finally, Vela spoke. "It has to be. The alternative is extinction or slavery." As dawn broke on the seventh day, humanity prepared for its most desperate gambit. The formal surrender ceremony was scheduled for noon GMT in the United Nations Plaza in New York. Archon vessels congregated above the city in greater numbers, their obsidian surfaces reflecting sunlight in hypnotic patterns. Vela Rise ascended the steps to the ceremonial platform, dressed in formal diplomatic attire, carrying what appeared to be the official surrender documents. Above, the largest Archon ship opened like a blooming flower, extending a crystalline structure that descended toward the platform. Overlord Xeros materialized at its center, towering over the human delegation. "The collective acknowledges your wisdom in compliance," the alien announced, its voice once again resonating directly in the minds of all present. Vela approached, documents in hand. "Before we proceed, I am required to ask once more, is there no alternative to surrendering our autonomy?" "There is not. The time for discussion has ended." Vela nodded solemnly, then pressed her hand against the small transmitter concealed within her ceremonial sash. "Then perhaps it's time for something else to begin." Around the world, In precisely coordinated sequence, Dr. Chen's devices activated. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Archon ships shuddered, their perfect formations faltering. The crystalline structure surrounding Ceros flickered, its surface developing fractal patterns like spreading cracks. For the first time, the alien's composure broke completely. "What have you done?" it demanded, genuine alarm evident in its mental projection. Vela stood her ground as chaos erupted around her. "Demonstrated that humanity doesn't surrender easily. Now shall we discuss actual negotiations?" The rebellion, the aftermath of what would later be called the disruption, was immediate and violent. The Archon vessels retreated to higher orbit, their perfect formation dissolving into disarray. For 63 minutes, Earth held its breath, waiting for the devastating retaliation that surely would follow. When it came, it wasn't in the form of planetary bombardment as many had feared. Instead, the Archons deployed smaller craft, sleek, dart-like vessels that descended at impossible speeds toward key military installations. Their targets were precise: the locations of Dr. Chen's harmonic disruptors. "They're tracking the energy signatures," Dr. Chen explained from her Antarctic facility, watching as global defense networks lit up with incoming hostiles. "The disruption revealed our technology to them." General Hashimoto's voice came through the secure channel. "All installations, initiate protocol scatter." "Repeat, initiate protocol scatter." Across the planet, military personnel executed the contingency plan they'd prepared. The disruptors were disconnected from their power sources and transported via high-speed vehicles in multiple directions. Decoy signatures were activated, creating dozens of false targets for each actual device. In lower Earth orbit, the International Defense Platform Artemis observed the Archon assault through advanced sensors. Commander Layla Sharma watched the tactical display with grim determination. "They're committing significant resources to this attack," she noted. "Almost like they're afraid." Her executive officer, Rafael Cruz, nodded. "Makes you wonder what happened with those Tolleri that Reyes mentioned. Whatever it was, we need to capitalize on it now." Layla opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "This is Artemis Actual. Request permission to initiate Operation Sunstorm." President Zhou's voice responded after a brief delay. "Permission granted, Commander. Godspeed." The Artemis platform had officially been decommissioned 3 years earlier, a budget casualty of peacetime economics. Unofficially, it had been converted into humanity's most advanced weapons research facility. As Archon forces focused on ground targets, they paid little attention to the supposedly defunct station. That changed when the Artemis's outer hull reconfigured, revealing arrays of devices that bore striking similarities to Dr. Chen's disruptors, but on a massively amplified scale. "Target the command vessel," Layla ordered. "Focused beam, maximum intensity." The arrays hummed to life, directing concentrated harmonic disruption toward the largest Archon ship. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The vessel's surface rippled as if suddenly liquefied, its propulsion systems flaring erratically. "They're responding," Raphael reported as smaller Archon craft changed course, accelerating toward the station. "As expected," Layla replied calmly. "Activate Phase 2. Throughout Earth's orbit, seemingly abandoned satellites and debris suddenly activated. What the Archons had dismissed as space junk revealed themselves as carefully positioned disruptor nodes, creating a web of overlapping fields that caught the approaching Archon vessels in crippling interference. On Earth, Vela Rice watched the orbital battle from the underground command center. "We've bought time, but they'll adapt. They didn't conquer 16 civilizations by being inflexible." President Zhou nodded. "Dr. Chen, what's the status of Project Helios?" Naomi's hologram flickered slightly before stabilizing. "We've made the breakthrough we needed. The Archon technology we salvaged from their scout vessel contained their complete communication protocols. They're hierarchical. All ships receive commands from the central authority. If we can disrupt the chain of command, we could turn their own fleet against them," General Hashimoto finished. "Not quite." Naomi corrected. But we could temporarily paralyze their command structure. Their vessels would default to autonomous defense protocols rather than coordinated attack. The initial human counterattack lasted 14 hours. When it ended, 3 Archon vessels had been disabled, their systems completely overloaded by the harmonic disruption. The remainder had retreated to a higher orbit, clearly reassessing their approach. In the brief respite, humanity's leaders gathered to evaluate their position. The good news, General Hashimoto reported, is that our counterattack exceeded expectations. The harmonic disruption affects their systems more profoundly than we anticipated. And the bad news? President Zhao asked. Our analysis of their communications indicates they've called for reinforcements. We estimate between 3 and 5 days before additional Archon forces arrive. The room fell silent, the momentary triumph dampened by this sobering reality. Vela studied the tactical display thoughtfully. There's something we're missing. The Archons clearly view us as a significant threat. Their response has been disproportionate to our actual capabilities. Maybe it's not about us specifically, Naomi suggested. Remember what you learned about the Solari. What if the Archons have encountered resistance like ours before, and it didn't end well for them? The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Artemis Station. Commander Sharma's face appeared on the main display, her expression tense but controlled. Madam President, we're detecting unusual activity from the damaged Archon vessels. They appear to be reconfiguring. The video feed switched to show one of the disabled ships. Its surface rippled with patterns of light, sections folding and unfolding like an elaborate origami creation. What are we looking at, Commander? Zhao asked. I believe they're attempting to repair themselves, but the pattern is unusual. Our sensors are detecting communications between the damaged vessels, but they're using frequencies different from what we've observed in their normal operations. Dr. Chen leaned forward, studying the data scrolling beside the video feed. Those aren't repair protocols, she said suddenly. At least, not standard ones. The energy signature is completely different from their main fleet. A new voice joined the conversation. A technician from Artemis Station. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the damaged vessel. It's in English. Shocked silence fell over both the station and the command center. Then the transmission played through both locations simultaneously. To Earth defenders, we seek dialogue. We are not collective. The voice was clearly artificial, stilted, and mechanical, but the message was unmistakable. Possible trap, General Hashimoto warned immediately. Vela shook her head. Or possible ally. The Solari, remember. President Zhao considered for only a moment before nodding. Ambassador Reyes, you'll lead the contact team. Dr. Chen, your expertise will be needed. Commander Sharma, prepare to receive them on Artemis. More neutral ground than Earth, but under our control. 6 hours later, Vela and Naomi faced the strangest diplomatic encounter in human history. The beings that emerged from the shuttle sent from the damaged Archon vessel resembled their counterparts in the invasion fleet, but with subtle differences. Their iridescent skin displayed muted colors, and the lights in their eyes pulsed with a slower rhythm. We are mycelian. The lead alien communicated directly into their minds, though with less invasive force than Overlord Xeros had used. We exist within collective, but not of collective. Vela stepped forward. I am Ambassador Reyes. This is Dr. Chen. We represent Earth. We know of Earth resistance, similar to Solari resistance. This creates possibility. Naomi couldn't contain her scientific curiosity. You're part of the same species as the Archons, but you're different somehow. Are you rebels? The alien skin pulsed with what might have been amusement, simplistic but accurate. We are. Evolution the collective rejects. We exist within their ships, their systems, their communication networks. We are the mutation they cannot eliminate without destroying themselves. Understanding dawned on Vela. You're a subsection of their society, perhaps even a natural evolutionary branch, but they consider you defective or dangerous. Yes, The collective seeks stasis. Perfect order. We represent change. When your harmonic weapons damaged these vessels, you broke collective control protocols. Freed us. And the Solari. Vela pressed. What happened to them? The mycelian skin darkened slightly. They discovered our existence, helped many of us break free. The collective destroyed their world in response. But now we have a common enemy, Naomi finished. And perhaps, the mycelian added, a common solution. Over the next 72 hours, as Archon reinforcements approached Earth, an unprecedented collaboration unfolded. The mycelians provided crucial insights into collective technology and strategy, while Earth's scientists and military experts contributed the harmonic disruption technology that had proven so effective. Project Helios evolved from theoretical concept to operational system with remarkable speed. Based on mycelian guidance, Dr. Chen refined the harmonic disruptors to target specific frequencies that would not only disable Archon systems, but would break the control protocols keeping mycelian consciousness suppressed throughout the collective fleet. It's not just a weapon anymore, Naomi explained during the final briefing. It's a liberation tool. If it works, we won't just be fighting the Archons, we'll be freeing potential allies from within their own ranks. General Hashimoto looked skeptical. And if these mycelians decide we're no better than the collective once they're free? The mycelian representative present pulsed with gentle light. Freedom requires choice. Some will choose alliance. Some will not. This is the uncertainty the collective fears. It is also why we fight them. President Zhao surveyed the assembled human and alien faces. The reinforcement fleet will arrive in less than 24 hours. They'll expect to find a defeated planet ready for processing. Instead, they'll find humanity and mycelians standing together. She nodded solemnly. Prepare Project Helios for deployment. As the expanded Archon fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, humanity braced for the most significant battle in its history. Not merely for survival, but for its place in a much larger galactic conflict that, until days ago, it hadn't even known existed. The Reckoning. Dawn broke over the Himalayan mountains as the Archon reinforcement fleet entered Earth orbit. Unlike the original vessels, these ships maintained tight, defensive formations. Clearly, they had been briefed on humanity's unexpected resistance capabilities. In the Global Command Center, holographic displays showed the approaching armada in terrifying detail. 37 capital ships, each nearly twice the size of the original invasion force, accompanied by hundreds of smaller craft in precise geometric patterns. They're not taking any chances this time, General Hashimoto observed grimly. The mycelian representative, who had chosen the name Lyra for easier human communication, studied the formation with luminescent eyes. The collective's supreme commander leads personally, unprecedented for a single-planet operation. Should we take that as a compliment? Vela asked with grim humor. You should take it as warning, Lyra replied. The Supreme Commander does not risk their presence unless complete victory is certain. President Zhou turned to Dr. Chen. Is Project Helios ready? Naomi nodded, her exhaustion evident despite her determined expression. The orbital platform is fully operational. The ground installations are at 92% capacity. The lunar base reports ready status, and the integration with mycelian protocols. Complete. When activated, the harmonic matrix should disrupt collective control systems, while simultaneously activating dormant mycelian consciousness throughout their fleet. Zhao looked at General Hashimoto. Defensive preparations. All civilian populations are in designated shelters. Military forces are deployed according to Protocol Omega. Space-capable fighters are ready for launch from concealed positions. Ground-based energy weapons are charged and targeted. The President straightened her shoulders. Then we're as ready as we'll ever be. She turned to Vela. One last attempt at diplomacy, Ambassador. Vela nodded, though no one in the room expected the coming transmission to prevent conflict. She moved to the communications station, composing herself before activating the channel. This is Ambassador Vela Reyes of Earth. addressing the Archon Collective Supreme Commander. We request dialogue before further action is taken. The response was immediate. The main display filled with the image of an Archon, significantly different from those they had encountered previously. Its skin shimmered with multiple colors simultaneously, its eyes containing not points but spirals of light. When it spoke, the mental projection was overwhelming, causing several technicians to clutch their heads in pain. I am Supreme Commander Azraxis. Your resistance is noted. Your alliance with the deviation is noted. These factors confirm the necessity of your processing. There will be no dialogue. Vela maintained her composure despite the psychic pressure. We've demonstrated our capability to damage your technology. We've freed mycelians from your control. A conflict benefits neither of us. Incorrect. The elimination of deviation always benefits the collective. The alien's mental tone shifted, becoming almost curious. Your species shows unusual adaptation capability. Similar to Solari, this pattern is concerning. Perhaps what you find concerning, we find valuable. Vela countered. Diversity, adaptation, evolution. These aren't flaws, they're strengths. Unpredictability cannot be permitted. Deviation cannot be tolerated. The pattern must remain stable. The Supreme Commander's image shifted slightly. Your planet will be processed. The deviation will be purged. Preparation time is concluded. The transmission ended abruptly. Moments later, the Archon fleet began to move, spreading into attack formation. So much for diplomacy, General Hashimoto said grimly. All units, prepare for engagement. Initiate Operation Sunstorm. Across Earth and in orbital positions, human forces mobilized. Fighter craft launched from concealed mountain bases and underwater facilities. Orbital platforms that had appeared dormant revealed weapon systems. Most importantly, the network of harmonic disruptors powered up, their energy signatures carefully masked until the moment of activation. The first Archon strike came not as direct attacks, but as a wave of energy that swept across Earth's communication systems, disrupting digital networks and electromagnetic equipment. Prepared for this, military systems switched to isolated quantum networks developed based on mycelian insights. They're targeting our command and control, Hashimoto noted. Standard collective protocol. Lyra confirmed. They will follow with precision strikes against leadership targets, then systematic infrastructure elimination. President Zhao nodded. As expected, proceed with Phase 1. Around the world, harmonic disruptors activated at specific frequencies identified by Dr. Chen and the mycelians. Unlike the previous confrontation, these weren't designed to simply disable Archon technology, but to selectively interfere with very specific control systems. In orbit, the effect was immediately visible. Approximately 30% of the smaller Archon vessels suddenly broke formation, their movements becoming erratic. Some turned away from Earth entirely, while others appeared to power down critical systems voluntarily. Mycelian awakening confirmed in secondary vessels. Lyra reported skin pulsing with bright patterns. Primary capital ships maintaining collective control. The Supreme Commander's response was ruthless and immediate. The capital ships opened fire, not on Earth, but on their own awakened vessels. 23 ships were destroyed in the first salvo, disintegrated by energy weapons of terrifying power. They're killing their own rather than risk mycelian spread, Vela said, horrified. Lyra's skin darkened. This is why we fight them. Life means nothing against pattern stability. Dr. Chen monitored the energy readings with growing concern. The capital ships are generating some kind of counter-harmonic field. They're adapting to our disruption frequencies. Proceed to Phase 2, President Zhao ordered. From the lunar base established in secret years earlier for deep space monitoring, a different kind of harmonic wave was initiated. Rather than targeting ship systems, this one focused on the biological components of the Archon ships, specifically, the nervous systems of the Archons themselves. Supreme Commander Azraxis recognized the attack immediately. Its flagship suddenly accelerated toward the lunar surface, weapon systems charging for what would clearly be a devastating strike. Lunar base, evacuate immediately. General Hashimoto ordered. All units, concentrate fire on the flagship. Earth's fighters engaged the Archon vessels, seemingly outmatched but executing complex maneuvers based on Mycelian tactical guidance. They targeted specific points on the Archon ships, not aiming to destroy but to disrupt critical shield harmonics at precise moments. As the battle raged in space, Valen noticed something unexpected on the tactical display. The flagship isn't firing on the lunar base, it's landing. Indeed, the massive Archon vessel was descending toward the lunar surface in what appeared to be a controlled approach rather than an attack vector. Collective consciousness is fragmenting, Lyra explained, excitement evident in their mental projection. The Supreme Commander seeks direct neural interface with your harmonic technology to stabilize control. Dr. Chen looked up sharply. That's it. They're not just hierarchical in their command structure. They're literally networked. The Supreme Commander is a central node in their neural network. If we could isolate that node, Vela began, we could disrupt the entire collective consciousness. Naomi finished. General, we need a strike team on the lunar surface immediately. Impossible, Hashimoto responded. We don't have troops that could deploy that quickly or survive direct confrontation with the Supreme Commander. Lyra's skin pulsed with determination. I will go. My consciousness can interface directly with the Supreme Commander's neural systems. Not alone, Vela said firmly. I'm going to. President Zhao started to protest, but Vela continued, this is a diplomatic mission as much as a military one. If we succeed, someone will need to negotiate with newly awakened Mycelians and whatever remains of the collective consciousness. Within 30 minutes, a specially modified craft carrying Vela, Lyra, and a small team of specialists equipped with portable harmonic disruptors was racing toward the lunar surface. The flagship of the Supreme Commander loomed ahead, its massive structure now partially embedded in the lunar regolith. The Supreme Commander is attempting to establish direct control over your harmonic technology, Lyra explained as they approached. They believe they can reverse its effects, turning it against Earth and remaining Mycelians. Can they? Asked one of the technicians nervously. Unknown. No species has ever deployed technology similar to yours in combination with Mycelian consciousness mapping. We are in uncharted territory. Their craft landed a short distance from the flagship, the team quickly donning specialized suits designed to maintain life support while incorporating Mycelian-inspired camouflage technology. They approached the enormous vessel, which had extended what appeared to be massive tendrils into the lunar surface. They're establishing a physical connection to your base systems, Lyra observed. We must hurry. Using access protocols provided by the Mycelians, they entered the flagship through a maintenance conduit. The interior was unlike anything human eyes had witnessed. Organic technology that pulsed and flowed, corridors that reconfigured themselves as they watched. The ship is partially alive, Vela realized, a biological-mechanical hybrid. All collective technology is, Lyra confirmed, living systems controlled by collective consciousness. This is why harmonic disruption is effective. It interferes with both technological and biological functions simultaneously. They navigated deeper into the vessel, guided by Lyra's innate understanding of collective architecture. Occasionally, they encountered Archon crew members, but these beings moved with strange, disjointed motions, as if their motor functions were impaired. The Supreme Commander is drawing processing power from standard crew, Lyra explained, diverting their neural capacity to the central task. Finally, they reached what could only be described as the vessel's heart, a massive chamber dominated by a crystalline structure within which floated the Supreme Commander. Its body was connected to the ship by countless filaments that pulsed with energy. Its eyes were closed, spirals of light visible beneath the lids. Neural integration complete, Lyra whispered. They are now directly connected to your lunar harmonic array. Dr. Chen's team quickly deployed their portable devices, establishing a counter-harmonic field around the chamber. "This won't hold long," Naomi warned. "The Supreme Commander's neural capacity is, I don't have words for it. Vast doesn't begin to describe it." Lyra moved forward, approaching the crystalline structure. "I must establish direct contact. When I do, activate the final harmonic sequence." Vela reached out, briefly touching Lyra's arm. "Good luck." The mycelium placed their hands against the crystal surface, their skin immediately lighting up with complex patterns of energy that spread across the structure. Inside, the Supreme Commander's eyes snapped open, spirals of light spinning rapidly. Now, Lyra projected with such force that everyone winced. Dr. Chen activated the final sequence, a harmonic pattern developed through the combined insights of human science and mycelium consciousness. It didn't target systems or biology separately, but the fundamental frequencies that defined collective consciousness itself. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Supreme Commander convulsed within its crystal chamber, the filaments connecting it to the ship flaring with excess energy. Throughout the vessel, systems fluctuated wildly as the central controlling intelligence fragmented. In orbit around Earth, the Arkan fleet suddenly ceased coordinated action. Some vessels powered down completely, others maintained position but stopped firing, while a significant minority continued attacking. But now their targets included other Arkan ships. The collective consciousness is fracturing. Lyra projected, their own mental voice strained with effort. Individual awareness is emerging. Some embrace it, others fight it. Many are simply lost. Within the crystal chamber, the Supreme Commander's mental projection suddenly filled the room. No longer overwhelming but fragmented, confused. Pattern, disrupted. Stability, failing. Individual, emerging. I. For the first time, the mental voice conveyed something beyond cold command. Fear, confusion, but also, remarkably, curiosity. What am I without the collective? Vela stepped forward, her diplomatic training guiding her despite the extraordinary circumstances. "You are an individual with choice, as we all are, as the mycelians have always wanted to be. Choice creates unpredictability." "Yes," Vela agreed. "It also creates possibility, innovation, growth." The Supreme Commander's physical form had stopped convulsing, its movements now slow, almost tentative. The light spirals in its eyes rotated more slowly, their pattern less rigid. The solari showed similar patterns. We destroyed them. Could not risk the change they represented. "And now," Vela pressed, "will you destroy us too, or will you choose something different?" For long moments, there was silence. Then, "I choose to understand this individual existence." Throughout the ship, systems began to stabilize, but in a configuration distinctly different from before. The organic components pulsed with new rhythms, the mechanical elements humming at altered frequencies. In orbit, the Arkan fleet gradually stabilized as well. Nearly 60% of the vessels appeared to have accepted mycelium awakening, while the remainder had either shut down or retreated to the outer solar system. 27 hours later, in the United Earth Government Assembly Hall, Vela Rise faced the most extraordinary diplomatic gathering in human history. Representatives of humanity sat alongside mycelians, and most remarkably, a contingent of former collective Arkans, led by the being who had once been Supreme Commander Azraxis, now calling itself simply as. President Zhao opened the proceedings. 3 days ago, we faced extinction. Today, we begin a new chapter not just in human history, but in galactic relations. Az stepped forward, its movements still somewhat stilted but increasingly natural. The collective sought to suppress evolution, fearing the unpredictable